All right, welcome to Gothcast, episode 34. I'm Dr. Sanders,
And this is Robbie Gore.
and today we're going to be taking a look at one that I know a lot of people have wanted us to take a look at.
Yeah, this is definitely one we've been waiting to do. We wanted to cover what we felt like were basically essentials to cover in industrial music before we got to this band.
Yeah, and if you, like most people had already clicked the thing, I mean, you know what we're going to be talking about. I mean, who found this file blindly?
Fair enough.
What So, we're going to be taking a look at Nine Inch Nails.
Goth people listen to Nine Inch Nails.
A lot.
A lot,
In fact,
too.
I think we mentioned it on numerous episodes.
And I say goth people like there's some country of
Goth
people.
Yeah. The people of Gothonia.
The people of our civilization.
Yeah, but people who just are regularly part of scenes, people who
Yeah.
are part of
People-
death rock, people who like more traditional goth music, gothic rock,
Mhm. Yeah.
the 80 cents,
The trad goth
yeah.
music.
people, rivet heads who like a lot of industrial stuff.
Listen to goth music as well as industrial music.
Yeah, and Nine Inch Nails is one of those bands that even has crossover to metal fans.
I
Even-
would agree. And I think that in the past we've covered more strictly industrial bands. And
Mhm.
I think Nine Inch Nails is an important crossover, particularly because I feel like, and this might be controversial to say, but I feel like they kind of are a blending of gothic as well as metal and industrial influences.
Yeah.
Whereas a band like Skinny Puppy, I would say, is pretty much straightforward industrial.
Yeah, I would say with the way the genres are, and I have touched on it briefly. At least I know I have brought it up, Nine Inch Nails, quite a bit. And whenever we're having these discussions about bands that people may not think should be included
Yeah.
in our show.
Well, at the end of the day, we do bands that we know people listen to in the subculture.
Yeah.
And being in the subculture, we know that people listen to Nine Inch Nails.
A lot.
We know that not everybody listens to Nine Inch Nails, but
Mhm.
the majority of people who listen to this podcast probably going to expect us to talk about Nine Inch Nails at some point.
Probably. Or they would think that we would avoid it because it might be controversial.
Yes. So because people expect us to, and because they don't, we are doing this episode today.
That's deep. But yeah, I would say that Nine Inch Nails' sound is obviously very industrial. I mean, they're one of the bands who's like known for bringing industrial to the mainstream.
I would certainly agree with that. I don't really feel like most people knew what industrial music was before Nine Inch Nails came along. And that's not to say there wasn't huge subcultures
No,
and
no.
groups
But
of
the
people
mainstream.
Yeah, but a mainstream audience, people who are listening to the radio, weren't really going to be aware of industrial music or other industrial bands until Nine Inch Nails came along and got radio play. That opened up a huge window for all these other bands because there was suddenly a mainstream audience for it. People who were listening to the Foo Fighters would be like, oh, I also listen to Nine Inch Nails. I want to find another industrial band.
Yeah, which is that's so weird to think, actually. But the one thing I have to say about Nine Inch Nails' sound right off the bat is that there are some really, really abrasive songs.
Yeah.
But I have to say, and I said this very briefly, I don't know what episode it is, but I said that Nine Inch Nails is industrial, but it has like an underlying pop sensibility.
Definitely agree with that
Yeah.
statement. I think one of the reasons that they made it as far as they did and have become as big as they are is because of their pop sensibilities. And really what that boils down to, at least in the way that I define music, is that Trent Reznor has really strong writing skills and he has a background with pop music. And that doesn't mean that he has a background with Madonna or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Madonna would just be called pop.
Yeah.
But then there is pop music, which has become kind of something separate from the genre pop.
Yeah.
Because originally you would have called the Beatles pop music, but people don't really call the Beatles pop music anymore. That's part of classic rock.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh man, you're confusing me. So yeah, so basically the point I want to make is that while Nine Inch Nails, at least I feel, not all of their songs, but a good number of their songs, definitely their most well-known hits, they aren't super abrasive.
Yeah.
While they are aggressive, that's why I think that it comes out more inside of their music than anything is an aggression and energy.
Mhm.
They're not necessarily like I would say Skinny Puppy.
No.
Like what would you or even Ministry. I mean like their songs like you put on you can kind of dance to them.
and I guess that's where I was going with the point I was trying to make was essentially that I think what it boils down to is that they have a very strong sense of melody in their
Yeah.
songwriting.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's not necessarily the case for industrial bands. That doesn't make them bad bands or bad musicians by any means. You can certainly make great art without relying strictly on the rules of melody and chord structure.
Yeah.
But from a musical standpoint and coming from a music background, I can definitely make the case that Nine Inch Nails are a pretty melodic industrial band.
Yeah. All right. I just kind of want us to get that out of the way because I felt like that was kind of a thing that's going to need to be addressed.
People are going to comment on it.
Yeah.
And people are going to talk about the fact that we're talking about Nine Inch Nails at all.
Exactly. But I do want to talk about Trent Reznor's musical career before Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, so we've been having some fun with this episode.
And I've always put on specific songs to kind of make people laugh.
Yeah.
Or to kind of be like, oh, like what? But before Trent Reznor did Nine Inch Nails and, was like this angry, aggressive, dirty music, he was in these two bands. So one's called Option 30 and the other one's called Exotic Birds.
Yep. Exotic Birds is the more famous of the two.
Yeah, and Option 30 is actually, I think, the funnier of the two.
Oh,
Definitely. He's more like fronting it,
And
being
it
like,
looks more like Oingo Boingo.
Yeah. I can't. But he's saying like basically this really poppy new wave music. He's like,
it's like Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, it's really funny. But he had like the full on like hairdo, and he's like dancing and stuff, like really 80s in front of the keyboard, and
yeah. It looks like he was a member of Depeche Mode.
It does, yeah.
Early Depeche Mode.
Not. We're not talking about Shake the Disease Depeche Mode.
Yeah, we'll talk about Depeche Mode eventually.
Yeah,
that is coming up.
That's right. But yeah, it's really funny. So if you want to see some hilarious stuff, look up the band Option 30 and just type in Option 30 Trent Reznor or Exotic Birds Trent Reznor.
Yeah,
but I think
Option 30 is probably the funnier band. Aside from the one cover that the Exotic Birds did, they are not quite nearly as cheesy as I would say Option 30 is.
Yeah. No, I think Option 30 was the one that did the Falco cover.
They both did covers.
Oh, did it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's a really hilarious Falco cover.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, God, I don't even know how to describe it. I'll put a clip here just so you can hear Trent Reznor doing this.
We'll probably post the video links on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. I will.
Because this should definitely be seen as well as heard.
Yep.
But just know that this is the man that if you're a fan of Nine Inch Nails, this is the man who fronts the band.
Yeah. Just want to get that out of the way. All right. On to finally talking about one of the albums.
We're talking about a band today?
Yeah, we're talking about a band. We're talking about their first album, which is Pretty Hate Machine.
Yeah.
Now, this is...
We're not talking about Donnie.
That's right. Just on my Instagram post. Go like us on Instagram. But Pretty Hate Machine. This is the album that jump-started his, basically successful career because he had been in music for...
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
So prior to Pretty Hate Machine, he'd been most well known for playing in the Exotic Birds, who had been managed by a man named John Malm Jr. Reznor and Malm became very good friends, and when Reznor left the Exotic Birds, they stayed friends, and Malm basically became informally his manager. And from there, Reznor started working at a studio where he was an assistant engineer as well as a janitor, and he would record music in the studio's free time when they weren't being booked.
Yeah.
He had an arrangement with the owner of the studio who was, who saw something in Trent and was like, all right, yeah, it doesn't cost me very much except for some wear on my tape heads.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of early Nine Inch Nails, or what would become Nine Inch Nails music, was recorded.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot more demos. If you guys actually want to do some research, there are a lot more demos of songs that actually didn't make it onto Pretty Hate Machine. Yeah,
prior to releasing Pretty Hate Machine, they had recorded basically a live set at the studio titled Purest Feeling, but decided not to release it.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that they were kind of already working on Pretty Hate Machine, and Trent Reznor was more concerned with pushing that forward. And that has now been released, so that's something that you can go
I've
listen
listened to.
Yep.
Some of the songs actually I think are a lot more new wavy, I would say.
Definitely.
They're not bad though. I mean,
no, they're definitely lighter songs. I would call them less industrial.
Yeah.
But I also think that he was just kind of delving into that sound as they were, as he was writing the material for this album.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would certainly say that he had a background in electronic music and sampling, but really no prior history with industrial music that's noted anywhere.
Well, I think he had known like he basically been in that scene.
I know he'd been in the scene, but like he'd not been in any industrial bands, is what I'm saying, or recorded in any industrial material.
Yeah, nothing big, but this is really the breakthrough. And I gotta say, for an album that was released so long ago, it
is still a highly acclaimed album.
Yeah, it has a very timeless sound in some ways, and in some ways has a very dated sound. And my experience with Nine Inch Nails was first seeing the Head Like a Hole music video late night on TV. I grew up in a small town, and we had like the one music channel out there.
Yeah,
and sure enough, I mean, it must have been like the block from 11 p.m. to 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I remember I first saw the Head Like a Hole music video. I was like, what the heck is this?
My first experience with Nine Inch Nails was the With Teeth album, because they had started playing songs on K-Rock at that point. And I don't think I've ever really talked about this on the show, but I grew up in a relatively shall we say, strict household.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't allowed to listen to a lot of types of music other than what I would just basically steal off the internet and hide in my room.
Yeah. Mattress.
Yeah. I'm getting sidetracked here.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyways, the point I was making was I kind of worked my way backwards with Nine Inch Nails because of that. And I think that's kind of why I brought up the fact that the same people were listening, the Foo Fighters were listening to Nine Inch Nails, is because by the time I was exposed to Nine Inch Nails, they had hit mainstream culture. They were playing on, huge commercial radio stations.
Yeah.
And so my friends who didn't listen to any kind of subcultures of music were listening to Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to work my way back with this band.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I felt like a lot of people got to watch them evolve more.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. In fact, I really stuck towards Pretty Hate Machine, because that was like I said, it was the first thing I heard from them.
Yeah.
And I bought that the disc back in the day, and it's like I have like 2 copies of the same one. I have like the original one that I got like years ago. The one that has like the plain print and stuff on it. It's like so scratched up, but I just really was like, man, like what is this? Like the video was so aggressive. By the way, the video totally give you like a seizure nowadays.
Oh yeah,
like they would never release a video like that nowadays.
Not at all.
It would definitely have a seizure warning.
Yeah,
let's say that if you watch Head Like a Hole music video. But yeah, what songs do you like on this album?
Okay, so right off the bat, I have to be honest. I don't think I really dislike any of the singles. I think Head Like a Hole was the first thing I obviously heard from this album.
Yeah.
Because when you look up Pretty Hate Machine, that's like the first thing that's going to come up.
Yeah. So when you look up Nine Inch Nails, it's going to be like one of the first things that comes up.
I think at this point, like they've become bigger than that sort of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like if you search Nine Inch Nails, that might be like the 5th or 6th thing that comes up.
Yeah.
But like Closer will probably be the first thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think Closer is is essentially like the new Head Like a Hole.
Yeah, that's definitely the most famous song. But yeah, I like pretty much everything on this album. I gotta be honest. I mean, I had basically a CD stuck in my car at one point, and I was okay with it. But the only song which I'm not the biggest fan of, I really have to say, and it may disappoint people, is actually Down in It.
Really?
And that's because I don't know, like I just never really liked the sound of it. It sounds so 80s to me, and not in a good way. And
fair enough.
And keep in mind, like I listened to this track a lot when I was younger too, so I should have like some
sentimental value.
Yeah, you know how I have like
nostalgia.
I have like no nostalgia is a problem. Well. Like, but I should have nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
I should be like, oh man, like this reminds me of being, 14 and all that stuff,
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I've never really like Down in It that much.
Fair enough.
But
I guess I don't have.
Do you want to hear Trent Reznor rapping? Because we're going down. How was everybody?
It's okay. I'm willing to concede with you that it's not really a great song.
I think I don't know. Something about it is just not my favorite.
No, I know. Trent Reznor rapping is not exactly my favorite Trent Reznor material, but I get why they did it and why it was something to be explored. And I really feel like Pretty Hate Machine was an album for him to just try things on.
Yeah.
Because it was all recorded by himself. He had an idea for a sound, and he was creating it entirely himself, basically, except for drum tracks. And some of them, he even did those electronically.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, also you look at, I think, is the only song which I really criticize on this album is Down in It, right?
Yeah.
But then you have the song Something I Could Never Have, which is pretty much, to me, sounds almost completely timeless.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
I completely agree.
Great performance, but his voice, like, is so good on this album. Like, songs like Sin.
Sin is great.
Yeah.
I like Terrible Lie. I don't know if you do.
That's great. Yeah. But my favorite on the album is Ring Finger.
Oh, Ring Finger, that's the next track.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite song on the album. In fact, I hate that the record like ends with it.
Yeah.
Because I have a fully automatic turntable, which means that goes to the end and it goes back.
Oh.
So like I try to catch it before it does it, so I can play it again.
So you can end on a good note, or just repeat it.
Yeah, just repeat it, but like it, it'll go back.
Yeah.
And I have to, like push the thing over again. But yeah, it's so good. By the way, it's a great album. For reissues and everything. It's been remastered and it even the original pressings hold up really well in terms of production.
Yeah,
but the remasters, like, even
the remasters are great, particularly because this was coming out basically on the bridge between vinyl and cassette, and CDs coming more later.
Yeah.
But so we were moving towards the more modern era of music.
Yeah.
Cassettes and vinyl were definitely released for this album.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much
we're moving towards CDs by the time 9 Inch Nails was,
89.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you can find it on like everything, and it's been reissued a ton of times. Actually, I think it's great because Trent Reznor, I think he owns like the tapes for it now or something. I'm pretty sure he does. But yeah, so he like a lot of the reissues.
Well, he's like crazy about that stuff.
Yeah.
Like he keeps back catalogs of like original master recordings of everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge part of why reissues for them always sound so good. And the other reason being is that he actually makes sure that they get paid attention to properly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, the friggin' when we get the Downward Spiral, like I have that, and that's like a 2, like it's like amazing quality.
Yeah.
Like sound quality is like ridiculously good.
I did want to mention that on the remastered edition of this album, it features a cover of Queen.
Right?
Get Down, Make Love.
So if you're not a fan of Queen, apparently Fred Reznor is a fan of Queen. So
yeah, I'm not always the biggest fan of covers being on there. It's all right. It's not. I could see why he didn't include it on the album.
Yeah, it's just it's interesting. Oh, and if you want to know what one of the interesting songs, at least I think, from the Purest Feeling, bootleg album.
Yeah.
Well, one I recommend listening to is that's a little bit strange. It's called Maybe Just Once, and I think that one has like it doesn't really fit in with these recordings. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, like it's hard to really say much about Pretty Hate Machine. The sound of the instruments is amazing. The sound of the piano, the sound of all the keyboards and stuff.
Well, it's hard to say something that somebody hasn't already said about the album.
That's the thing is, most of our fans, even if they're not even say the biggest fan of 9 Inch Nails,
are probably familiar with his album.
Yeah, and most people like a lot of the songs or like the aggression or the energy that's on it.
And most critics, mostly,
Yeah, it rarely gets a bad review.
Yeah, praise this album. It does get the occasional bad review, but, critics are kind of snobby.
They're critics.
We're critics. We're kind of snobby.
We're critics. Yeah, I think we are. Whether we want to be or not. Like, just say what I think. But yeah, it's great. It's hard, it's hard for me to find something that's wrong with a lot of things. Like I said, Down in It just isn't one of my favorite songs. I mean, that's like the only problem I have. And by problem, I mean, it's that it's just not as good as the other songs to me. But yeah, Pretty Hate Machine, there's no way I can't not recommend this album. I mean, this album is so good. I mean, I have it on vinyl. I have it twice on CD. I have it on cassette.
It's quintessential. I would say that pretty much every track on the album is worth listening to.
Yeah.
There is Down in It and a song or two other that are not perhaps the best Nine Inch Nails songs
Yeah.
ever. But
Pretty much.
when we live in a world where I can most of the time sadly expect new albums that come out to be 50% good, 50% bad.
Yeah.
A album that I would say is like 85 to 90% good.
Mhm.
Like that's
And then most people's opinion, maybe 100% good.
Yeah.
Like, but
that's a pretty damn good
Yeah.
percentage.
I think actually probably the only nitpick I can have with the album in terms of production,
Yeah.
is that there's not really a ton of like actual bass, like
Yeah.
background bass to fill in the sound.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of guitar, there's a lot of driving drums, a lot of things like that that make the sound big, but there's not a ton of bass, and that's actually something that's fixed pretty much completely on the next full album that
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about. But the early recordings, I do have to say, like because they use the drum machine so much and like the distorted guitar a lot, sometimes just using the keyboards, guitar, and the drums, you don't have as full of a sound.
Yeah. We are being nitpicky by saying
That's
that
very nitpicky.
yeah.
I mean, that's just the only thing that I say about that.
yeah, they could have probably used an actual bass more often than not, or even just filled out the bass frequency spectrum more.
Exactly.
But they use synth basses, and
Yeah.
I say they. It was really just
Yeah.
Trent at this point.
I know. Oh, by the way, the album art. If you ever seen the remastered one, which is like blue and white,
Yes.
that's what I think. Maybe a lot of people are more familiar. I think even the vinyl re-releases have that now. But
The original LP.
the original is hot pink and blue,
Yes.
and so there was some article I read like a while ago where apparently Trent Reznor and the guy who was remastering the artwork,
Mm-hmm.
like they had lost the original artwork, so the guy
Yeah.
had to like recreate it. And
Yeah, it
Trent Reznor-
basically looks like a really cropped in, like
Yeah.
non-inverted image.
yeah, and he was like, Trent Reznor was like, okay, can we get rid of the hot pink, because it was like he just thought it was too dated. But I just thought
He
that
had
was,
moved away from his Flock Seagull days.
I guess so. But I always thought that was really funny. And then also another piece of trivia for this album. I have a lot of pieces of trivia for Nine Inch Nails. Been a fan for a long time. But I think it was the ending of Down in It where like the camera drops down inside of the video, like at the end, like
Yeah.
it drops off a building. Apparently, like, and like it's supposed to be like Trent. Apparently, like some farmer had found like the footage or something
Mm-hmm.
and thought that there was like a real suicide on it,
Yeah.
and they like had to call them or something, like a number on it. It's really, really weird footage.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird footage associated with this band.
Yeah,
We're
and,
going to talk about that a little
yeah.
bit today.
but that's Pretty Hate Machine. We can go on and on and on. And just wanted to say, go listen.
Yes.
All right, welcome to recent interesting goth stuff.
AKA Riggs.
That's right. And the way we're gonna do news today is actually we don't have a gigantic news section because
We have a
know
rather long
We know this
episode.
episode is gonna take a while.
Yes.
So I thought I would just hit a whole bunch of like small things.
Yeah.
One is Ash versus Evil Dead
Mhm.
season 2 is going into production. They have like all the promotional photos and stuff coming out for
it
it.
had already been greenlit, but it's actually going into production now.
As far as I can tell, I don't think they have a definitive release date when it's coming out, but all the
Yeah.
casts come back, and oh my god, like I can't wait.
Oh, it's definitely on one of my lists of most anticipated things.
Yeah. And then I would say for my thing, not necessarily goth, but definitely very cynical,
Yeah.
is Rick and Morty.
Yep.
Season 2 is coming out this month, so July.
I'm actually excited about that one as well because I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
I won't bore people to explain my fascination with it. But,
Morty, you just need to relax, Morty.
God, Rick!
I don't know, Doc. I don't know. Yeah, so good. But yes, that's gonna come out. I think it's the 25th or 27th of July. You just internet search it.
Yeah.
And one other thing is actually one movie that came out on Blu-ray,
Mhm.
and I think it's totally like underrated. Like one of those movies where it's like awesome, and they just add a whole bunch of special features and everything. You know me, I'm a sucker for special features.
Of course. Who is it?
Is a movie called Session 9 with
Yeah.
David Caruso. And that's the guy who from like, I think it's like CSI.
Yeah.
You know who the guy is, right? The guy,
Mhm.
the ginger hair kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's her hair. But yeah, A really great movie, Session 9. Love it on Blu-ray. I really recommend that one. And that's the only reason it's a news story is because I don't think a lot of people have seen that one. Total hidden gem for like thrillers.
Yeah, definitely. I actually haven't seen the movie personally.
I've seen it enough for both of us
I've
to be able to recommend it.
I trust your taste in
10 out of
movies
10.
though. Given that we pretty much always agree on every movie episode that we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one I haven't gotten around to watching yet, but
Yeah.
maybe I will now.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I'll
it.
have to check that out.
Yeah. And then what else did you want to cover?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about an article that was recently published. It was published by a woman named Elise S. Carter, and it's titled "What Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber Don't Get About Goth." And it's basically just an article kind of try and defend goth subculture and show that there is a goth subculture. We've seen all these fashion articles have come out about how Taylor Swift is going goth, or how like goth fashion is coming back into the mainstream. But this article really addresses that none of those articles address the fact that there is a culture associated with this fashion that is completely being ignored.
Yeah, I've actually, there's been a lot of backlash, at least in subculture about this whole goth line and goth summer type thing coming out. And obviously, we see and interact with our fans a lot, and a lot of them have voiced a lot of negativity for this whole campaign and all this stuff about like Taylor Swift goth queen. Yes, or whatever,
it's basically, I felt like it kind of started with health goth becoming a thing, and now because so many people didn't get the joke behind that it's basically become a new fashion trend again. Like, it's not necessarily that goth is back in, but black is definitely back in.
I know. Well, and then of course anyways, whereas black is just like
It must be goth
immediately.
yeah, because people aren't emo anymore, or who wears black clothing besides goth and emos, right?
Yeah, right? Nobody, right? Of course. Yeah, it's so ridiculous, but
Not Taylor Swift, no, or
Yeah.
Justin Bieber.
when she was 22. Wait, does that sound by her? 22, 21, 22, 22. Ooh.
I think you're thinking of Adele.
Is that Dell?
Adele has albums that are named after her age, so she has 19 and 21.
Oh, so okay. Well, that's dumb.
But anyways, it's actually a really good read. I would suggest you guys checking it out. But I think it just voices a lot of things that we've all been thinking, pointing out that there is a culture that is largely being ignored currently by the fact that goth is trying to be pushed to the mainstream without any of its ties to its actual subculture, and actually recommends things to people to check out, like the Gothic to Goth exhibit, which basically its curator is Lindsay, and basically just kind of describes how, where we get goth from is the word Gothic, and that was associated with the Romantic era and its fashion, and basically the transition from that to what we have now. And then references, of course, Susie and the Banshees, and, Bauhaus, and then like horror things like, vampires and industrial music, and even, it even critiques the fact that there's stores like Hot Topic and Forever 21 trying to, capitalize on darkness right now.
Yeah,
and it's a really good read. So I think it brings up a lot of interesting points.
Yeah, I do think that that's one of the problems with this whole thing of like being like, oh, like these people got kings and queens like right now, is that yes, one, it is a very surface thing, and a lot of people try to argue, who aren't really into the scene, they're like, oh, well, it's like an evolution of the fashion. It's like, yes, but you're also trying to disregard all of these things, like it's just, in a way, it is very insulting to it, and I don't want to be that person who like instigates any of that stuff, but it is very kind of trying to blow off all this history while taking the name of something, almost like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of, because English is always a very
Yeah.
strange language. That like the idea that like hashtag was the pound sign, or like
And that no one calls the pound sign anymore. It's
Yeah.
just called a hashtag.
or like
The only-
tablets became something totally different than what they were. Like,
Yeah. They're basically laptops again.
Yeah, it's really strange. But they are disregarding all this stuff. They're basically saying like, oh, if you were black, like, oh, like, well,
Basically, if you have any kind of dark sensibility
Yeah.
about you, you must
not
be...
even dark. I mean, it's just like you're wearing
No,
black.
I didn't mean like their
Yeah.
personality necessarily, but just like if you
Your
put
color
out
scheme.
if your color scheme is black, basically, or like even like a show is remotely dark, all of a sudden it's deemed gothic.
Yeah, and I just think that they're like, a lot of people who are like, yeah, oh, I love this goth fashion, and it's like, okay, well, if they listen to anything associated with or watch anything that's actually associated with, they'd probably be like, oh my god, it's creepy, get that away from me. It's just like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
one of the reasons the goth gets that particular
They'd be like, that's Columbine stuff.
probably. I think the biggest issue is that a lot of people don't recognize that there's a music scene associated with goth fashion.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson, right?
Uh-huh. That's partially probably due to the fact that gothic fashion existed before goth music and goth fashion existed. It's also largely due to the fact that goth has just fallen out of the mainstream. Goth as a subculture.
By the way, okay, and I don't know if anybody else has picked up on this or noticed this, but do you notice that how Marilyn Manson like always tries to, not that he shies away from the goth term,
Yeah.
but everybody says, oh, he's not goth, and then this whole thing, Marilyn Manson's doing that goth like
Yeah, I
clothing
know.
line, and it's like the one time which I've seen where he's just like really like,
Yeah,
like,
I'm goth.
he's like totally just like he's not come out and said like no, he's like, he's just like part of this line.
He
you
won't
know?
say that he's goth, but he'll be part of the goth line.
Yeah, so I thought that was really funny because his whole career, everybody's been saying he's not goth, and he's even ducked that question in interviews and stuff, like to just gone on different tangents and stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, like this is like the goth line. Who did they get?
As soon as he can capitalize on it.
It's so I just thought that was funny. Man, first, what was that news story cover? Like Dancing with the Stars did the Beautiful People thing. Yeah, it's just very. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Black is the new black.
Like this is new black. Yeah, but we go on this forever. But
Yeah.
we just thought we'd throw it out there, and that's an interesting article to read. And we'll post it when we post it to the website, which probably you already knows that. So
Yep.
yeah, but yeah, this has been the recent interesting goth stuff.
Yep.
So let's get back to 9 Inch Nails. Okay, now we don't usually talk about EPs
Yeah.
on
We
the show.
kind of almost just skip over them, really,
Yeah.
unless they're very notable.
We also get criticized for that sometimes.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's just there's a lot of material to cover from a band, and if we were going to do every EP, I don't like it. They would be probably like the episodes would be in 9 parts or something.
yeah. And if there was a band which you think we would not do the EPs for, it would definitely be 9 Inch Nails. But of course, we're doing an EP for 9 Inch Nails, and that's
Yeah.
because this had original music, and it comes between Pretty Hate Machine and The Downward Spiral.
And it has enough music to be an album. And in fact, part of the reason that it's an EP and not an album has largely to do with the fact that Trent was trying to avoid record company interference.
And they also did a weird thing where, with the original release of this album, he split it up onto like 2 discs.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, it was like both the runtimes on CDs were less than
Yeah.
a full length, but they put them together, they were a full length.
Mhm.
So, yeah, really strange.
Yeah. So Reznor secretly made this record. It was at the time it was untitled.
Yeah.
Under various pseudonyms because
Yeah.
he was trying basically not to let the record company know about it because he didn't want them to have any involvement with it.
Yeah, it was because his record company was after Pretty Hate Machine, because Pretty Hate Machine, I think by the time it was all released and everything, I think like nearly bankrupted the record company, but
Yeah.
then it was a huge success.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, oh, you got to record it. You got to record like a new,
Pretty Hate Machine.
and they were like really pressuring him to be like,
Mhm.
no, you have to like,
You have to continue with that
Yeah.
sound exactly.
and pretty much the way the president of the company was like, no, you can't. It has to sound like this. Like, we won't release anything. And so Trent Reznor went on his whole feud with it and was recording all of these songs for this EP.
Yeah.
Secretly. And
I think a lot of him being forced to do this, well, not forced, but having good reason to do this secretly.
Yeah.
Really kind of fuel a lot of the content on this album, specifically like the lyrical content. You have song titles like Happiness and Slavery.
Help Me, I'm in Hell.
Yep.
Gave Up.
But Happiness and Slavery pretty much depicts a man who messes with like security equipment and vandalizes crime policies and is basically trying to like break the system. And you can see all these things as social critiques, and a lot of them I think are things that Reznor was feeling at the time.
Yeah, I totally think. And Broken, this is the Broken, I don't know if we said it. Did they say Broken EP? Yeah, so this is the Broken EP from 1992.
Yeah, I don't think we did say that.
Yeah. This is the Broken EP.
This is the Broken EP, yeah.
And so it's really, I would say, a lot heavier and a lot more aggressive.
Way heavier, way more aggressive.
A lot of the shorter songs, because basically goes between, these kind of little, just like noisy little, almost, I mean, not soundscapes, but definitely not fully formed song kind of things like Pinion and Help Me, I'm in Hell. It has these like little snippets of things that kind of are interludes between them, and pretty much everything for the most part is really aggressive. You do have the songs on here that probably most people are familiar with, which is Wish and Gave Up. And especially Wish. That's a big song for them, and it's not
Huge
on
song.
It's not on any album. It's on this Gave Up. On the Broken EP.
I mean, it's been covered. Like it's a song that people cover by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah. Who did on?
Linkin Park.
Oh, that's right. Oh, we listened to it before this episode. I'm sorry. I was not a fan of that.
It was not very good.
I'm not a fan of Linkin Park anyway, but man,
neither am I. But I will say that. Although I don't particularly care for their music, I don't think all of it is the worst thing ever produced in the world.
I wouldn't know.
Liar, whore, and you know it.
But I think that song probably should not have been released.
Okay. Yeah, go look it up. Linkin Park, Wish, Nine Inch Nails cover. But yeah, so basically I have two songs in here that I would say are at least somewhat accessible, at least for people who were listening to the previous album. Other than that, I mean, like, Happiness and Slavery is extremely aggressive. Pinion is really cool. I actually like a lot of the... Oh, man, it's so hard to talk about this. Okay, basically, the one thing I really want to talk about with the Broken EP is, yes, the music is good. It's aggressive. In fact, actually, if you want to hear some of my favorite songs by Nine Inch Nails ever is Gave Up.
It Gave Up. There's a lot of really good music here. Definitely not Pretty Hate Machine, but it is definitely continuing and what I feel like is a good trajectory for them to move in, and a trajectory that makes sense. They're moving more towards industrial music, or if you want to get really technical, Reznor is moving more towards industrial music, while the last album is, arguably a pop industrial record. This is much more an industrial record.
An aggressive pop industrial album.
Something that could... I even think that, some songs are reminiscent of, like Ministry songs. Like they're that heavy.
Yeah. On here, definitely. I mean, on Broken. But yeah, the one thing I want to talk about, and I'm not sure how many people are as familiar with it. People might be familiar with the fact that they try to release it incognito, outside Record Company. But there is basically a movie.
Yes.
And it basically uses every song from the album, at least as far as I'm aware.
Every original song from the album.
Not the two covers. So the two covers at the end of the album, they're that was how the album was split. Is basically the original songs and then the two covers were released on the separate disc. But
two covers are Physical by Adam and the Ants and Suck by Pigface.
Yeah. So with the movie, it's basically was a thing that was completely filmed, prepared, everything. It's basically music videos for all the songs on this album.
Yes.
And it's packaged as a 20-minute film. And it was never released. And the reason it was never released is because the whole plot of the movie centers around this basically a snuff film. And so it's like, the guy's like being tortured, and then like a Nine Inch Nails video comes on, and then like there's some like, some GIMP stuff, and there's all this, then there's like part of it,
Well, there's a very very disturbing part of it, in which a man has basically his genitalia destroyed and is
Ground
drilled
up.
through,
Yeah.
and it is eventually ground up, and then Trent Reznor walks into the room as if he is,
Yeah. Well, then
planned the operation.
and then the end, the guy's like he's hanging from the ceiling and just like gutting the guy and
Yeah.
ripping out his body parts. And it wasn't released because they were afraid that actually, it's very realistic.
it's very graphic.
for the time. It's graphic for now.
Even today,
Yeah.
like, I'll be honest, watch some dark things, and this is among them.
yeah. It's obviously it's from a VHS, like, because the way this got out was actually it was bootlegged,
Yeah.
and then it was put onto again bootlegged again on VHS, because VHS you just copy it.
Yep.
So it circulated around like that, and then once the internet came out, people were like, oh, like I can share this movie with everybody. So
Yep.
you're not gonna be able to find it on YouTube, I don't think, because
No.
it gets flagged all the time.
It's way too hardcore for
Yeah.
YouTube.
But if you want to find it, you can just look up Nine Inch Nails Broken movie.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find it. I'm sure. That's the internet. We don't need to direct you to it.
Yeah.
But just be aware, it's very graphic.
Yeah.
It is very presented very realistically. It is almost nauseating if you're not into. If say you. I'm assuming most of our fans. I'm not saying all of our fans, but I'm saying a decent amount of fans are pretty desensitized to quite a few things.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that this is going to be low on the desensitization spectrum, though.
what do you mean? Because it's
As
so
in
bad.
that they are not going to be desensitized to this, probably.
I would say it's up there with, like, as far as releases by like bigger releases of
Yeah.
things, not just like some art house
Mhm.
thing.
Well, like, you see like some really dark releases come out every once in a while, but rarely with this much content in them. Like,
yeah,
this is
I guess that's true.
This is
yeah.
a pretty long piece.
Yeah,
of,
20 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
20 minutes of some pretty graphic stuff.
Yeah.
But this is also where the Wish video is in here, like, just regularly. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny. It's kind of out of place in the thing. Happiness and Slavery
Yep.
is probably another one that most people have seen part of. Like,
Yeah.
it gets censored on YouTube, but they cut off. Like, most of it gets flagged.
Yeah.
Like, this thing gets flagged a lot. So if you're trying to look for it on YouTube, it may be up there right now, but it gets taken out a lot. Gave Up actually has a different version. So if you've seen the Gave Up music video,
Yeah.
the one where it's inside of, like, I think it's like the Sharon Tate house, or
Yeah.
like where they're recording in a studio, and actually Marilyn Manson's in that video,
Mm-hmm.
very young Marilyn
Yeah.
Manson,
Playing guitar.
yeah, playing guitar, and I think he said inside of it, he's like his book, Marilyn Manson's book.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I didn't play guitar. I didn't play guitar for the track. Like, I
Yeah.
just was in. He asked me if I want to be in a music video.
By the way, very interesting to see young Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, sans makeup.
Yeah, without makeup.
Yeah. Very different.
Yeah, definitely not the Marilyn Manson I'm used to seeing.
Well, especially not now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Gave Up has an alternate video, but the one that's from Broken is just like the guy being tortured.
Mm-hmm.
Great songs, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. Oh, and if you're wondering if Trent Reznor's ever going to actually release that video, because like I said, it was bootlegged a ton. He commented on it in like 2005 and a few times since then saying, oh, we'll finally get around to releasing it. But he hasn't, there's no word on it now. And actually, I don't know if it'll ever come out. And no, Closure does not have this whole movie on it.
No, it does not.
People think that Closure has the entire Broken film on it. It is not all on there.
No,
So
there's some stuff that was too
yeah.
controversial to be put on Closure.
Yeah. So just thought I'd throw it out there. But yeah, Broken, I totally recommend it, actually.
I do as well. I kind of just wanted to bring up a comment that Reznor had made about the music itself, and that a lot of people definitely take note of the fact that this album is a lot heavier than I keep saying album. This EP is a lot heavier than the last album, and Reznor's been asked about that, and he always describes it as he's like, yeah, you're right. He's like, it had a super thick chunk sound, and almost every guitar on the record was him playing an old Zoom pedal and then going direct into Digidesign's turbo synth. And that's how they got like those crazy distorted synth sounds for like their guitar.
Yeah.
Like, which is for me as a geeky gear nerd, I find that little tidbit hilarious because Zoom pedals are terrible, and I love that that was used for almost every guitar sound on the album.
Yep. But yeah, take a look at this one. If you want to go be grossed out, watch the movie. And well, actually, if you like gore and you like all that stuff, and you want to actually listen to the whole album, then just watch the movie. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you recommend it highly? What's your recommendation for Broken? What's your opinion?
Okay, I definitely recommend listening to the album. I want to say that I recommend the movie, but I don't know that I should recommend the movie, and that I'm not sure everybody should see that film. I think it might be damaging to some people.
I'll say this. I think in some ways, I'm a little more desensitized than you.
Oh, I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
So,
But then I'll also say that I will never forget that guy being strapped down in that chair.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's like I've seen some pretty dark things, and I will admit you probably have more of a stomach for it than I do.
Actually, the thing that grossed me out the most in it was actually the flies. Oh
yeah,
Oh.
that was the thing that got you.
God. Oh, so disgusting. Oh, it's got everything.
But yeah, I could sit through this, and for the most part, I think we both enjoyed watching the film, even though I use the word enjoyed not in the strictest of definitions.
Well, I think we both were interested enough to keep watching.
Yes.
I'll say that. I think after that, we felt like we needed to scrub our internet
Mhm.
and
It's
watch some
definitely-
puppies.
You feel like you should watch what you do on the internet for a while after seeing it.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. And I don't know that we could.
It's not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that right
I don't know
now.
that we could do it justice.
If you could stomach I'll put it this way: if you think you could stomach like a 20-minute snuff film, then check it out.
Yeah.
I think that's painting it like as darkly as I can just to prepare someone for it.
Okay. But yeah, if anybody does, we're not saying watch it, but we're saying that if you do,
It's really interesting.
if you do watch it, I would like to hear your opinion of it. Just curious. But yeah, so that's Broken. Music is good. Movie's interesting. But yeah, let's get on to.
I could see why it was named accordingly.
Broken, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there was also an EP called Fixed. That was just like remixes and stuff, but
Yeah.
we're not covering that. So,
No.
but yeah, that's Broken. Okay, so now we're on to, kind of the other big one.
Yeah. This is technically the second studio album by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, so like I said, we don't usually talk about EPs, but Broken,
It's almost an album.
almost an album.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting. Whatever, Downward Spiral.
Yeah.
So Downward Spiral is the second full-length album by Nine Inch Nails. It's a concept album, dealing with destruction of oneself and basically being the downward spiral and, to this attempt at suicide and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's basically about struggling with drug addiction and depression and watching the human condition crumble.
Yeah, which is what Trent Reznor was actually dealing with, drug addiction and...
Yeah, he was struggling with drug addiction. He was heavily depressed. His friends kept telling him, "Oh, you got to take Prozac." You should mention at this time, Prozac was becoming a very big thing.
Yeah.
Brief history on Prozac: was invented in the 1980s, the first antidepressant to not have major side effects compared to previous antidepressants. And so it was considered the world's wonder drug.
Yep.
And so, if you had a friend who was depressed, you were like, "Oh, you should take some Prozac."
Yep.
And obviously, if you know anything about Trent Reznor, he did not like the
Anything made him
suggestion.
happy. Yeah. Yeah, so he refused all the antidepressants and everything like that, so he could basically make this product darker and, feel natural.
He said he wanted the album to expand and basically emphasize on mood, texture, restraint, and subtlety. He wanted to grow in every way possible, and he didn't feel that was going to be an option on antidepressants.
Yeah. So with this album, he works with Flood again, who worked with him on the Broken EP. It's actually recorded in the house that Sharon Tate was murdered in.
Yeah, at this point, Trent Reznor had moved to the house.
And there's apparently all this crazy stuff. Like, you can actually look up kind of like this creepy, stuff that happened there and like the consoles switching off or whatever. And actually, Trent Reznor, he was confronted, I think, by like her sister or something at some point.
Yeah.
When he was recording the album, was like, "Oh, are you just trying to capitalize on my sister? She was a human being or whatever." And actually, I think it affected him a lot because actually, when the album was finished, he had the house demolished.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this is actually where the Gave Up video was filmed.
Yeah. He also, there's a lot of conflicts he was having with Richard Patrick, the band member at the time, guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like it's that particular thing is mentioned in Wikipedia, but the line reads, the concept for the album was based on Reznor's social issues at the time. He had personal conflicts with band member Richard Patrick and was known for enjoying alcohol. Not abusing, and enjoying. And then they go on to immediately state that he had drug addiction, which I find completely absurd. But
very interesting. But yeah, actually getting on to the music of this album, this continues on where Broken was starting to show.
I think it was the direction that Broken was headed, but this is a much
darker.
better, much darker, and I would say more produced album as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So many of these songs are really popular.
Yeah.
And it still does have some of the soundscapey kind of things, like the small little tidbit things, kind of like Big Man with a Gun, which is only like a minute and a half. But chorus, we have to talk about it because everyone hears it all the time, even on the radio. I mean, that's how much this thing covers it.
Yeah.
It's Closer. I mean, that song, everybody knows this.
Everybody knows Closer.
Yeah. And so
Closer is a kind of, I would say, ahead of its time.
It's
because
it's now
I would say it's arguably more popular now than it was then.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It's a very I don't know. Trent Reznor,
I'm sure you have a very strong opinion about this song.
I do. It's just that Trent Reznor himself has been very vocal about the way that it's misinterpreted as kind of a sex anthem.
Yeah.
Due to the I want to fuck you like an animal kind of thing. But he says, lyrically it's about self-hatred and obsession and basically an addiction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you listen to the song, and this has always been something that's baffled me, because when I first heard that song, I didn't think, oh yeah, a great song to have sex to. I thought, wow, this is a powerful piece of music, and I can really hear a man's desperation.
It's just more about like hating, hating that you're obsessed with this, hating that you're obsessed with something, it's just...
It's about hating yourself.
Yeah.
I think at its core.
Yeah. And so I think, he's been pretty irritated about the way that it's been
glorified.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, as far as the inspiration and the actual song itself, it's pretty amazing. In fact,
I would say it's beautifully written.
Yeah. And of course, the music video is extremely famous.
Yeah.
It's probably the most famous music video by them,
Yes.
And it's, every time they're parodied through that music video,
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we've seen, every Nine Inch Nails video, but the director's cut where it has like a lot more of that monkey and like nudity and all that stuff, like, because it's one of those songs where they tried to make the edit work, like, I want to, it like distorts the audio so it kind of works. But the music video, like, I think it had some animal rights people who were mad at it.
I will say, having seen the music video, the monkey looks very upset to be there.
Yeah, monkey does not look happy.
Yeah.
Strapped upon his cross and looks like it's...
That is arguably the only thing in the video that really makes me go like,
Oh yeah. Especially now. I mean, it's not... I don't really find it shocking at all.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. The only thing I found shocking was the monkey.
I felt bad for the monkey, kind of. I'm sure the monkey was fine. I don't really know.
So Trent Reznor holds up a shell. I always thought that was really funny how he holds up like a shell randomly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was shot on film. And having actually worked with film, it's pretty cool that they keep in like tape splices and all this stuff. It's pretty neat.
The album is largely noted for being very influenced by David Bowie's Low album.
Definitely. Yeah.
And Pink Floyd's The Wall is referenced. I don't see that as much, really.
It's supposed to be like, somebody who's going crazy.
Yeah, avant-garde.
Yeah.
But basically there is this crazy amount of production on this album, and really a focus on filling sonic space and texture. And the guitars and the synthesizers just kind of melt into each other. And
Oh, yeah.
that's where I would say this album really succeeds, is in its production. I mean, it's a great album in terms of writing, but as far as production goes, I feel like, yes, Pretty Hate Machine it's a great album and I highly recommend it, but it's definitely a different kind of sound, and it's a more raw sound. And this is notably heavier.
More aggressive, yeah, definitely.
Heavier and aggressive, I would say.
Dirtier.
Yeah.
That's fun to use that word.
It's much more produced and much more clean. And
Yeah. I would, and like I said, the bottom end on this, like the bass tones and all that stuff, lower frequencies.
Yep. All been fixed. The
yeah,
issues that
and
we
this
had.
is a much more minor album. But yeah, like songs, pretty much every song on it. I mean, Mr. Self-Destruct, great opener. Fixes a lot of those issues I had in terms of like, maybe like covering different sonic space.
Yep.
Totally different than Pretty Hate Machine. But then you have another of my favorite songs by Nine Inch Nails, Heresy.
Heresy's really good.
I love that song so much. And I don't think they played it for like a really long time. But you have March of the Pigs, which actually the music video was actually them playing live, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really, really like that.
I also really like
yeah.
kind of the little tidbit kind of things, like Big Man with a Gun. And
well, you can't not talk about Hurt, which is,
of course.
Yeah.
Which this is arguably the most, well, it's hard. That's why it's
know, right?
arguably. I don't know what's more famous, Closer or Hurt. I would say that Closer is more famous as a Nine Inch Nails song, while Hurt is perhaps more famous
as a song.
As a song, and that's because Johnny Cash covered it.
Yeah, actually, this is definitely a weird one. And so I was obviously familiar with, I didn't know Johnny Cash did a cover of the song until...
It was the 2000s.
Yeah, it was like 2009 or something when he did. But I didn't know he did that cover for a few years after he did that.
Oh, I knew it immediately.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan. Surprisingly, to some of you maybe.
And I remember when I found that out, I was like, oh, like he covered a Nine Inch Nails song? That's crazy. Because I remember like, I was like, oh yeah, I love that song. I was like playing it and somebody was like,
yep.
Oh, I like Johnny Cash's version better. I was like, Johnny Cash did a version of this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked up, I was like, it's okay. Like, I'm not the biggest Johnny Cash fan.
I completely disagree, but
I mean, in my opinion. Well, my opinion's right.
Yeah, whatever you say.
But
you think that?
I don't even think it. Fans could agree.
Sure, yeah.
Just
like the one.
Yeah, that one guy who keeps commenting randomly.
Yeah.
Shifty eyes.
I think his name's like Lonnie Manders.
Lonnie Manders.
Yeah.
Dr. Landers. It's like me with a mustache. Instagram. Like twirling it. I'm so evil. Actually, I brought that to my grandma because my grandma like hates Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Because it's like all that.
Of course.
Because all that Columbine stuff, like she's one of those people who's like very, very, very religious.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Well, this was, part of the reason why I had a very strict household is because I grew up in a rather religious household.
Yeah, so she's really religious, and she pretty much all her knowledge of that came from the Columbine stuff.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I forget how, I think I just brought up Nine Inch Nails to see what she would say. And so, just so I could bring up the Hurt. Yeah. And so she's like, oh, like, I just don't like that group, Nine Inch Nail. I was like, Johnny Cash should cover this song, right? And he was such a fan. And so she's like, what? I was like, yeah, a song Hurt by Johnny Cash? She's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's a Nine Inch Nails song. She's like, no. She's like, they must have covered it from Johnny Cash. I was like,
I mean, I could see why she might think that, given the age difference between them.
Yeah, I was like, no, Grandma, that one came out in '94, and then one came out in 2009. She's like, I cannot believe that.
Yes, but after that song came out, Johnny Cash became a huge icon, especially of alternative culture and subcultures.
Movie too.
Yeah, movie as well. You constantly see the image of Johnny Cash with his guitar flipping the audience off, printed on all kinds of T-shirts
everything.
Now.
Back to Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, this album's amazing. It's every song is done mixed and kind of tweaked so much that they're all unique and have their own little almost different complete approaches to mixing.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I've heard a lot of people complain about the version of Hurt that's on this album, like the actual album version of Hurt. Because if you're listening to it with headphones, it sounds like it's kind of almost like fluttering between the stereo, like almost like it's kind of fading out, or it's not quite properly recorded. It's all on purpose to try and make it kind of that dying sort of sound a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are used to the radio version, in which that doesn't happen, where it's much, all the guitar and stuff and all the keyboard stuff is much more pop oriented kind of thing. So if you listen to the actual album version, it has, and we're talking about CD, cassette, vinyl versions.
Yeah.
If it's the standard album mixing, it has that kind of like fluttering kind of things where the instruments go out a little bit, and Trent Reznor's voice is very quiet. So just thought I'd mention that. In terms of art and everything, it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I mean, I really like it. And also they did all the singles to kind of match the art for us, like the yellow with everything. And I actually have the deluxe whatever, like vinyl one. And it actually has like a, gatefold 2 LPs.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And it's like the art design's really cool. It's a beefy album. Every time everybody like lifts up, they're like, Jesus, this thing's heavy.
Yeah.
Like it has the really cool art to it. It's really like minimalist, and I really like it. I think it's awesome. I mean, this album was such a breakthrough, and it does seem like, especially when you listen to Broken in between Pretty Hate Machine and The Downward Spiral, like it seems like, okay, this is like really an evolution, right? But
apart from each other, it seems like a pretty big jump.
Oh, believe me, like I listened to Broken way after I listened to both of these albums.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. I was like, this is crazy that this goes from like this essentially like dark pop album from like 1989,
It was
which
basically kind of like an industrial influence synth pop kind of album.
yeah, kind of thing. And, oh man, don't tell Trent Reznor that he hates being called synth pop.
I know.
I hate it. Hates when people
He
call
played in synth pop bands though.
It's different. Listen to Option 30. But then I listened to this one, and I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. And I've, like Broken really is that like perfect middle ground between the two.
I would definitely agree.
And also the demos too. I think those demos are so funny.
I also, back in terms of production, like just the creativity that's shown on this album and the lengths that Trent Reznor went to get the right people playing on this album. Adrian Bellew recorded some tracks for the album, guitar tracks for Mr. Self-Destruct and as well as The Becoming. Kind of more of a textural thing on Mr. Self-Destruct, and he used a guitar part that involved a ring modulator on The Becoming. But his role on the album in particular really revived Reznor's kind of idea of what guitar could be on an album.
Doesn't have to be straightforward or anything.
Yeah, and especially because he had falling outs with Patrick, their touring guitarist.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
Look up guitarists for Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
For at least in the early days, and you'll see there's quite a number.
Yeah. It's, to say the least, Trent Reznor was not the biggest fan of the guitar as an instrument, and he's a synth player primarily.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. So seeing an artist who could produce music for the instrument in a way that was original and unique, I feel like would be a thing that would continue on later albums and would kind of almost become a staple of Nine Inch Nails music and their production would be that guitars didn't always sound quite like guitars.
This is why I think Trent Reznor was the hottest.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So there you go. That's a Downward Spiral. By the way, it's critically acclaimed. Also broke them into mainstream.
Yes.
Made them become a household name. All that too. But how? Just go. You probably already heard it. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably
There's
heard.
no way you haven't heard at least.
You might. They might not have. I mean, there's always that one person who's gonna be like, "Oh,
who hasn't heard Closer?"
There's gonna be, it. You know how the internet is. There's gonna be that one person who's like, "Well, I've never heard it until right now." So I would say a majority of people have heard it.
I say if someone hasn't heard Closer, it's their fault.
I never heard it before this.
Yeah, shut
right.
your mouth.
But yeah, so that's the Downward Spiral.
Yes,
so
it is.
Go listen to it. You probably already have, but
It's a great album.
go listen to it again.
Can't recommend it more.
Okay, and now we're on to our last album we're going to be talking about today,
Yep.
which is The Fragile.
Yeah, so by the time this album came out, Nine Inch Nails were more or less...
Superstars.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So this is when the big kind of, almost, I don't want to say like, alternative rock had really broken through by this point.
Yeah.
And the sort of things like you have like Marilyn Manson had become huge at this time, in...
Subcultures of rock were thriving kind of for the first time.
So you have these albums coming out, and this was the sequel to Downward Spiral, which is a big success. And a lot of people kind of see this as a weird one, and I do too. Like, this is always a strange one for me.
Yeah.
For Nine Inch Nails, and I gotta say right off the bat, not my favorite release. And I'm giving this one a lot of tries, and there's some good material on here, but
Yeah.
overall, a lot of things on here I just thought weren't as good as the previous releases.
Yeah. I have to agree with you in a personal sense, and that my opinion of the album is I don't feel like it's as good as the last two. It's not bad.
No.
It's definitely impressive in terms of production. I don't think it's as enjoyable of a listen as either the other other three albums, if you want to throw
Broken in there.
Broken in the mix. But I will say Reznor has often spoken. I don't know if you could make the case that he's just trying to cover up the fact that it wasn't the album that he wanted it to be. But he deliberately talks about how he wanted the album to not sound like it was fully fleshed out. His direct quote from him reads, "I wanted the album to sound like there was something inherently flawed in the situation, like someone was struggling to put the pieces together. The Downward Spiral was about peeling off layers and arriving at a naked, ugly end. The album starts at an end, then attempts to create order from chaos, but never reaches the goal."
Yeah, I think Trey Reznor was on a lot of drugs at the time,
Fair enough.
which he was actually.
Yeah.
During this
No,
time.
he was. He was on the last album, and more so on this album.
Yeah, I think after this one was when he finally went to rehab.
Yeah.
Which we're talking about when we do the next part.
Yep.
But yeah, just some things about this. Flood was really great. I thought Flood working with Trent Reznor was.
He's an amazing producer.
Yeah, and I think that he really understood the.
He was responsible for creating, Head Like a Hole, or producing it at least, co-producing alongside Reznor himself.
But yeah,
And so I feel like they had this dynamic together.
But yeah, I think he just really understood the Nine Inch Nails sound, like that aggression that of like the choruses, that sort of like the energy that's inside of Nine Inch Nails that everyone's familiar with when you're familiar with the band.
Yeah.
The thing that really draws you in is just how passionate it seems. And I feel like this album is really lacking that. And
Yeah.
there's some good stuff in it. But I just feel like a lot of it just doesn't hit as well as it should.
I think a big problem with the album is Reznor had such high expectations for everything that he produced. I felt like he was always trying to produce his next masterpiece. And he had already essentially created, arguably some pretty great pieces of art at this point in time. And he wanted to top it even more with this album. And I kind of feel like he was pulled in too many directions by it. Like he was being influenced by way too many different things. He talks about experimentation with electronic artists. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but Autechre,
Okay.
and Square Pusher. He's also stated that the Fragile uses funk bass lines that are North African minor key modalities, and like there's all these weird things that he keeps pulling influence from that I feel like are kind of
They're cool in concept.
Concepts. But if you're really going to make that album, I feel like this was an album that would have needed years and years of production to be the right album.
Or it's hard whenever you're one guy doing that.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I want to take all these pieces and put it together into something, right?
Yeah.
It's hard when you don't do that as really a band jamming sense to be able to put it back, be able to put it all together easily. Yeah. And so I just feel like a lot of this stuff, like even Reznor's voice on this. Like,
oh, definitely his voice.
I feel
think
it's a lot weaker. you
yeah,
know?
it's not that really angry, like harsh kind of voice that we heard on all of his other, like, because he normally shouts and screams on songs.
Mhm.
And this album, I feel like he was kind of trying to almost sing the songs too much. And while I would argue that all of what Trent Reznor does can be considered singing, like
Mhm.
to some extent it's shouting.
Yeah.
And I think that those are the kind of vocal lines that he really, excels at.
Yeah, the every Nine Inch Nails song
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like one of the best examples I think of a song that is, I feel like, supposed to be aggressive, but is not aggressive or doesn't hit me as that, is The Day the World Went Away. And
Yeah.
that song, like, I just always feel like whenever I'm listening to it, I'm like, man, I get what he's going for, but it's not hitting me. Like, yeah, it's just disappointing. But even one of the more popular ones, which is Starfuckers Inc.
Yep.
Even that one, like, I mean, it has a cool video and everything, but but the song itself is
No, I'll admit.
and I know a lot of people post it because it's hey, Starfucker, like the title's aggressive and the video's cool looking, but I didn't like the song. But there's cool piano pieces and stuff on this. There's a lot of really beautiful things on it.
There's beautiful instrumentation recorded here, but I just don't feel like I don't feel like the album really comes together properly.
Yeah.
And it's not for lack of production quality, but maybe for lack of sight and direction.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like, although Trent Reznor is perhaps one of the most driven persons to record music, he definitely usually goes in with a distinct sound in mind. He's always trying to be very avant-garde and trying to be the newest, best version of himself in terms of his music that he possibly can be. And I feel like this album isn't that. Like, I feel like it tries really hard to be, but it just kind of falls short of that.
Yeah. I will say though, the song Into the Void, always on my mixtapes.
Yep. It's a really good song.
Oh, so good.
And that's just to go to say that
there's still good material.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good. You just have to make up your mind for yourself. Also,
there's probably going to be a lot of people who disagree with us. There's probably going to be people
I feel like
who
there's going to be a lot of people who are going to share this because I know there's a lot of people who like this. I mean,
we're not crazy because it does have mixed reviews.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is there is a lot of material on here. I mean, think about it.
Yes, it's a very long album.
Yeah, so basically there's 2 discs to it, right? I don't think he's ever said it's a really official double album, but there's left disc and the right. So left fragile, right fragile, right?
Yeah.
Left one clocks in almost a full hour, and the other one clocks in at almost 50 minutes.
Yep.
50, not 15, 50.
Yes, they're both almost the same.
So it's almost 2 hours worth of music. And you could have cut that down and made... I
completely agree.
You could have cut that down and made one great album and refine it. I just, I don't know. I mean, this was a time when you would buy albums, right? Like this, this is right before the whole Napster thing. And, kind of going back. I mean, there were CD singles and stuff, but, people more or less bought albums.
Yeah.
And I get it in time where, like Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and The Infinite Sadness had come out, which is like really long, double album, like stuff. So it's not like 90s didn't have these great double albums. I just think that this isn't one of them. I mean, it's great. I mean, if the other albums weren't as amazing, I would think that this would be like this great piece of music.
It's hard to say that though too as well, because this album did peak at #1 on the US Billboard 200.
Yeah.
And so that's to say it was a really popular album, but where I will say it falters is as critically great album.
Oh, and a follow-up to The Downward Spiral.
Yeah, and that's what I basically alluding at by saying it's not as good a critically acclaimed album, is that I don't feel that as a great piece of art, this is as good as his previous works. As a album that charts well, does great.
Yeah.
And you could say that's because they were already popular, and that probably has some truth to it. Like, that probably played a role in it. But I will say I do commend Trent Reznor for making the album that he wanted to make in spite of the fact that he probably had, opposition from record labels and, just living in the music industry, essentially.
Yeah. Well, actually, in terms of fan reception, like there was positive reviews of this album, right?
Yeah.
But it actually didn't sell as much as they were hoping, especially for a Nine Inch Nails album in the 90s.
Yeah.
So actually, the record company, because the sales were so poor, they said they wouldn't fund a tour.
Yeah.
So Trent Reznor paid out of his pocket for the tour.
Yeah. Well, and it's backed by two labels, Interscope and then Nothing, which is his label.
Yeah, so his label, it was funded by a label, which is his label, so it was his money.
Yep.
And it was really expensive. He wanted to have all these video screens and all this stuff.
Yep.
And even later, he said that, I thought the show was really, really good when we were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then he later said, he can't watch it at all. He was sick for most of the tour. And he just didn't really feel like it was Nine Inch Nails at his best. And I feel like that shows by him not playing a lot of the music from this album.
Yeah.
He really doesn't bust it out a lot.
No, it's a lot of guest artists coming in to, not necessarily guest artists, but, guest musicians coming in to record parts for the album. And we'd seen that on previous albums, but not nearly as much it is used on this album.
And it seemed like there's a lot of influence too.
Yeah.
Like from them. And who knows? Maybe Flood had that much of an influence on him to where the Nine Inch Nails sound that most people are familiar with came from working with him.
I kind of think, people like to solely, attribute Nine Inch Nails sound to Reznor himself. And he's a very talented person. And I think that he, definitely is probably the biggest role in that. But I don't know if we ever would have gotten the material we would have if he hadn't worked with Flood. I think that it is very telling that, the single that everybody is most familiar with off of Pretty Hate Machine was, produced with him and Flood.
Mm.
And that he would go on to work with Flood after that.
Yeah. I will say, though, and this is something I thought we'd save until the end, is I really want to say that seeing Nine Inch Nails live is a far different experience than their albums.
I've never gotten to experience that, unfortunately.
They came to my hometown one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a much more aggressive, like they tool all of the stuff to be like longer and just like they just kind of just beat the crap out of the instruments and all stuff, and they get violent, and it's just it's a really crazy thing. But Trent Reznor's always said, like he just feels that he needs to, he's not worried about adjusting the songs for live. He's like, and he really understands that like certain songs that work great on an album do not work live, and certain songs that work great live aren't necessarily great on an album. Like, and I think that is actually why they're so good to go see live.
Yep,
because he really gets it.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's a man with great direction and is very creative. He's a very talented man, and I think that shows in his work.
Yeah,
there's a reason that Nine Inch Nails are as popular as they are, and that there are so many good videos of them playing live. You can take plenty of bands from that era. I feel like there's not as much video on them. Yeah,
that's true. And Nine Inch Nails actually old video of them playing live is like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
By the way, when they're actually I always think the funniest ones are the early ones because, you could tell he wants to be super aggressive, but there's like a really tiny production. So I think that's really hilarious. We see just like Trent Reznor like a regular shirt.
Yeah.
Trying to be like, yeah, come on. Yeah. It's hilarious. But yeah, that's a fragile. Not the best note to go on, but we're actually, when we do the next one, we're going to talk about some of the more controversial sides of fandom for Nine Inch Nails, in that a lot of people feel like they softened up as time went on.
Yeah, a lot of people, like, I'll say it, like, because I grew up with people who were saying it. Like, people would frequently say that Nine Inch Nails sold out.
Yeah, and we're going to see that basically with the next album. And it's just when people really start saying it.
Yeah, we're people saying it. We're not saying that they sold out.
Yeah, we're not saying that we're sold out. I don't think anybody can really sell out. I mean, That's a whole
That's
discussion.
a discussion in and of itself.
Yeah. But yeah, next time we're going to be covering With Teeth and onwards.
Yep.
and
And that's where I was really kind of introduced
Yeah.
to the band for the
And
first time.
a lot of legal battles.
Yep.
Trent Reznor battling addiction.
Yep.
A lot of different stuff. But we hope you've enjoyed this part of Nine Inch Nails part 1.
Yep.
But this has been Gothcast episode 34. I am Dr. Sanders.
And I'm Robbie Gore.
And Gothcast is part of the Belfry Network. The Belfry bringing you goth
Stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. Podcast, YouTube channels, blogs.
Lots of different things. Check it out. It's www.thebelfry. That's THEBELFRY.RIP.
And of course, we always have to plug our social media. So we have a Facebook, which is just Gothcast. We have Instagram as well, which is, again, just Gothcast. We have a YouTube channel, which is Gothcast space video.
Yep.
We have our website, which is the best place to find all our content as we host all of it there.
Oh, and right now we actually just updated it, which is
Yeah,
cool.
we actually just went through a little overhaul of our website.
Still
So
working on it.
if you haven't checked it out in a while, hop on there. It's gothcastradio.com. No www. If you haven't seen it before, this will be your introduction to it. And if you have, you should see some things on there, particularly in the layout that you haven't seen before.
Yeah. Oh, also we have a Tumblr, which is gothcast.tumblr.com.
We
And
also have a Twitter.
I also have. Oh yeah, so we got Twitter, and if you want to, if you want to read my stupid one-liner jokes that I say all the time, which I think are hilarious, because like I've said on this show, Robert handles a lot of social media because I am pretty inept at social media stuff.
But one day Donnie was like, "Should we make a Twitter?" And I was like, "I think you would probably enjoy it."
It is hilarious. I have so much fun on Twitter. Twitter is so much fun because it's like you get like 150 characters, and like all it's like designed for like lame jokes. I also post like funny photos of like my
That's pretty much what Twitter is.
pretty much is, yeah. So it's not at Gothcast because some person has at Gothcast that's never posted anything except for like something like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's like at _Gothcast_.
Yeah. So I'm sure plenty of you have seen that kind of titling before. But yeah, it's basically Gothcast encapsulated by 2 underscore characters.
Yeah. So I think so. Some of our fans have already found it. So you can check that out.
And then, of course, we have our email, which is just gothcastradio@gmail.com. And we are happy to respond to you at any of these mediums. We're always happy to respond to comments, questions. We'd love to hear what you thought about this episode, what you thought about Infragile, perhaps.
Yeah.
What you thought about Broken if you checked it out, the movie or the album.
Yeah.
And we love hearing fan requests. This has definitely been requested before. The last album, or not the last album, but the last episode was a request as well.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I do want to say, we were looking at our iTunes. If you guys actually want to leave us an iTunes review, I just remembered because we just say that every episode, but then I forgot.
Yep.
So if anyone wants to leave us an iTunes review, just search Gothcast where you'll find us right away on iTunes.
It would be really appreciated because it definitely helps us out if you guys leave some reviews.
We get it. A lot of people don't use iTunes nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just hope that you've enjoyed this episode and looking forward to part 2 in the future. Obviously, like we break up our episodes, so the next one isn't going to be part 2 of Nine Inch Nails. So we hope you enjoy this, and I really look forward to hearing some comments from this one.
Yeah.
And I know we're gonna get some. So.
Yes, we are.
So yeah, stay spooky.